My name is Maya Caldwell. I'm 33 years old, and on a Sunday afternoon in October, I stood in the living room of the house I had owned for 4 years, the house my name was on the deed of, the house whose mortgage I had paid every single month since closing day, and listened to my mother-in-law tell me to get out. Not ask, please do not modify it, not frame it as a conversation. Tell. She stood in the center of my living room in a blazer she had worn specifically for this occasion. I know because she had called my husband the night before to tell him she was coming to handle something. And she said, "This house belongs to this family, and you are not a permanent part of this family, so I think it's time you made other arrangements." My husband was in the room. He said nothing. 47 seconds. I counted in my head because I needed something to count. 47 seconds of silence from the man whose name I had added to the deed 18 months earlier because I believed in our marriage and wanted him to feel secure. Then I walked to the kitchen. I opened the drawer beside the refrigerator. I came back with a single piece of paper. I placed it on the coffee table in front of Patricia Hollis, my mother-in-law, 58 years old, a woman who had been deciding things that were not hers to decide for as long as I had known her. She looked down at the paper. The Fulton County property tax receipt. My name, the address of the house we were standing in, the payment confirmation from the previous year. $4,847. Paid in full. My name. Only my name. "I own this house, Patricia," I said. "I have owned it since 2020. My name is on the deed. My name is on the mortgage. My name is on this receipt. There are no other arrangements. This is my home." She looked at the paper for a long time. Then she looked at my husband. He looked at the floor. I sat down in my chair, the one I picked out and paid for, and waited. I called my attorney, a woman named Diane Park, who had handled my closing in 2020 and who I had stayed in contact with. Diane walked me through the options. She recommended a deed amendment that added Marcus as a joint tenant, equal ownership rights, rather than a full title transfer. She also recommended, as a protective measure, that I keep detailed records of all financial contributions to the property: mortgage payments, property taxes, maintenance costs. Not because anything will go wrong, she said, but because documentation is always your friend. I kept a spreadsheet. Every mortgage payment, every property tax installment, every repair, every upgrade, every cost associated with the house from closing day forward. I added Marcus to the deed in January 2023. Patricia called Marcus the day she found out. I know this because he told me. He said his mother wanted to have dinner with us that weekend to discuss things. I asked, what things? The house, he said. We did not go to that dinner. Patricia called 3 more times over the following 2 weeks. Marcus took the calls in the other room. He came out each time looking slightly diminished, the way he always looked after extended phone contact with his mother, like something had been quietly compressed. He told me his mother was concerned about the structure. What structure? I said. The deed, the mortgage, the fact that I had the house before we were married. What about it? He was quiet for a moment. She thinks the house should be in both our names equally, purchased together. She says the way it's set up now, you have more claim to it than I do. That's because I purchased it, I said, and paid the mortgage for 2.5 years before you moved in and kept paying it after. She doesn't think that's fair. Marcus, I kept my voice level, I added you to the deed 6 months ago. You are on the deed. That was a gift. I gave you equity in a house I bought and paid for because we are married and I wanted you to feel at home. He nodded. He said he understood. He called his mother back that evening. The situation escalated in September. Marcus lost his job. Not dramatically, a restructuring at his firm, his position eliminated, 2 weeks severance and a good reference. These things happen. I was not unsympathetic. I was the primary earner for the first 3 months while he searched. Patricia called during this period with the frequency of someone monitoring a situation. She visited twice in October, both times unannounced. Both times she moved through my house with the territorial ease of someone acclimating to an ownership she hadn't established yet. She rearranged things. This sounds small. It was not small. She moved decorative items on shelves. She reorganized the kitchen cabinet I kept my baking supplies in. She placed a framed photo of Marcus at age 7 on the mantle where I had kept a print I'd bought on a trip to Savannah 4 years before we met. I moved everything back. She moved it again on her next visit. I said nothing to Marcus. I was picking my moments. Then came the Sunday in October. Marcus had just gotten a job offer, a good one, at a firm in Atlanta, starting in 3 weeks. I was relieved. We had dinner to celebrate on Saturday night, and things felt stable and good, and like the previous 3 months had been a difficult season that was ending. Sunday morning, Patricia called Marcus. Sunday afternoon, she arrived. She did not call me. She called Marcus and arrived unannounced at a home that had my name on the property tax receipt. I was in the kitchen when she came in. Marcus let her in. They talked in the living room for 20 minutes before he came to get me. Mom wants to talk to all of us, he said. His face had that compressed look. I dried my hands on the dish towel. I walked to the living room. I sat in my chair. Patricia was on the sofa. She had her hands folded and her blazer pressed and the specific posture of someone who has prepared remarks. She spoke for 6 minutes. The summary: Marcus had been unemployed for 3 months. The financial strain had been significant. The house was a source of imbalance in the marriage because I held a disproportionate ownership history. She had consulted with someone, she did not say who, about options for restructuring the property arrangement. She believed for the health of the marriage and the stability of the family, Marcus should have full equal standing. And then she said it. This house belongs to this family, and you are not a permanent part of this family. So I think it's time you made other arrangements. 47 seconds of silence. Then I walked to the kitchen. Then the drawer. Then the receipt. I need to stop here for a moment, because I want to ask you something. Have you ever been in a room where someone said something so specifically wrong, not just rude, not just overstepping, but factually, legally, documentably wrong, and felt the strange calm that comes from knowing you have the paper? Drop the word paper in the comments if you know that feeling. And stay with me, because what happened after I placed that receipt on the table is the part of the story that changed everything. Patricia looked at the receipt. She picked it up, she read it, she set it back down. Property taxes are paid by the person whose name is on the mortgage. That's not the same as ownership. The deed is also in my name and Marcus's, which I'm sure you know since you consulted about restructuring it. She looked at Marcus. Marcus, explain to her what I'm saying. Marcus looked at the floor. Mom, maybe we should... I'm going to call Diane, I said. Patricia looked at me. My attorney, I said, who handled the original closing and the deed amendment. I'd like her to explain the ownership structure directly, since there seems to be some confusion. I picked up my phone. Patricia stood up. This isn't a legal matter. This is a family matter. You asked me to leave my home. That made it a legal matter. She looked at Marcus one more time, the look that said, handle this. Marcus was quiet. I'm going to go, Patricia said. Her voice had a new quality, not anger exactly, but the specific tightness of someone who has overplayed a hand and is recalibrating. She picked up her purse. She walked to the door. She stopped with her hand on the frame. Marcus, call me tonight, she said. She left. The door closed. Marcus and I sat in the living room for a long time without speaking. The conversation with Marcus lasted 3 hours. I am not going to tell you it was a clean conversation. It was not clean. It was the kind of conversation that marriages either survive or don't, the kind where the things that have been quietly accumulating finally have to be named out loud. I told him what I had observed over 2 years. The cabinet was rearranged, the photographs moved, the phone calls he took in other rooms, the dinner we hadn't gone to, the way he looked after he talked with her. I told him what I had not said, which was that I had been watching his mother treat my home as an asset under negotiation for the better part of a year, and I had said nothing because I was waiting to see whether he would notice on his own. He hadn't noticed. Or he had noticed and hadn't said anything, which was its own answer. She wants what's best for me, he said. She told me to leave my own house, I said. He was quiet. Marcus, I need to ask you something directly. Do you think this is my house? A pause. It's our house,